Welcome to the newest episode of Beatin' and Bangin'. I'm your host, Kyle Dalton. In today's video, we'll recap Throwback Weekend at Darlington, and boy, do we have a lot to cover, including talking about the weekend's festivities and whether or not they've lost their luster. Multiple drivers sounded off on the topic, including Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, and Brad Keselowski, and the sport's most popular driver didn't hold back. Plus, Keselowski and Denny Hamlin talked about the big news item of late, tariffs, and how they are affecting NASCAR. On the Xfinity Series side, Austin Hill talked about his role in being a mentor, and Dale Jr. called him out for it. And finally, we have Sunday's race, which included Kyle Larson crashing on lap 4, his Hendrick Motorsports teammate William Byron absolutely dominating, a controversial caution, and various pit strategies changing the complexion of the race. We'll also hear what Richard Petty had to say about Fox's coverage, and the King said what fans have been saying for years. However, before we get to that, I want to go back to Saturday and media availabilities. A common question for Throwback Weekend asked of multiple drivers was, has Throwback Weekend lost its luster? First up, here's what Chase Elliott had to say.
Do you feel like this weekend has lost its luster over time?
I thought it lost it about 4 or 5 years ago, so I was way too early to that conversation, I think. But not to be a downer, but look, I joked about this before, years ago. But like, if we kept going down the road, we're going to be throwing it back to me in like 2018. So like, at some point, I think we gotta chill on it a little bit. I think we've rode the horse to death, and we tend to do that a little bit too much.
His HMS teammate William Byron said something similar.
Of course, I feel like we've had so many of them. It's really hard to get between 40 cars, like you cover most of the paint schemes at some point. So, I think maybe it's something where you bring it back every few years, or you maybe you go to different racetracks or something. Like I know the NBA, NHL, and NFL, they all have some sort of throwback time period, but it seems like it changes around a little bit, so maybe it's just getting a bit repetitive.
Brad Keselowski offered his opinion on the topic, but I thought it was interesting how he did so from a business perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard. It's hard to get all the different people to line up to pull it off. And for my car this weekend, we have Castro on it. We did throwbacks last few times here. It's kind of like we ran out a little bit of energy to pull off one that was good enough to make a mark, so to speak. And the other thing is, these are well, at least for us, we have global brands on our cars, and they have global initiatives and things that are going on, and they want to make sure they hit those. So with limited windows to do that, it's not always, it doesn't always work out. I think kind of body of work on the throwback stuff, we've done a lot, and I'm really proud of what we've done. And maybe this year wasn't obviously our greatest for making that happen, but I suspect that'll come back around in the years to come.
And here's what Kyle Busch had to say about it.
Well, it took 10 years for somebody to finally do a Kyle Busch one, so thanks to William and the team and the Xfinity side, that's pretty cool to finally have one. But when I look at fan reception, I feel like the fans really love it. And even if some of the drivers may think it's a little overblown or whatever, like, it's not for us. It's for the people that are in the grandstands and for their pure joy in just seeing some of the older cool schemes that come back to life in this day and age. So if they're all for it, trust me, I hear it all the time that I think I've had, of 10 years, I think I might have had 2 or 3 throwbacks. Trust me, I hear it all the time that I don't do throwbacks, and that's not on me. That's just the partners that we're with.
Kyle Busch's remarks really caught my attention because he shifted the focus of the question not from the driver's perspective, but from the fan's perspective, which I thought was A, very veteran of him, and B, the right approach. Later in the day, Keselowski had an epiphany of sorts and offered a second perspective on the subject, responding to a post with the video of Chase Elliott's remarks. I went to the merchandise hauler just now where it hit me, he said. Seeing the fans all dressed up in older gear reminded me Throwback Weekend is much bigger than paint schemes. This weekend connects new and old fans to our sports history in multiple, meaningful ways for everyone to enjoy. I understand the frustrations of trying to execute a great scheme, but also think we should be careful to not dismiss the fans that absolutely love this race. Me personally, I love the throwbacks. I think it's really cool, and it does connect, as Brad said, the past with the current fans in a very unique way. Sticking with Keselowski as a team owner, he was asked this weekend about how the recent tariffs that are making the news will affect NASCAR.
Yeah, I can't say I put a ton of thought into it, Jordan, but a lot of our single source parts come from here in the United States. I don't know a lot of them that don't, but it doesn't mean they're not affected, whether that be raw materials or so forth. But at this point in time, I don't see there being a drastic effect for us, but I don't know what I don't know.
In addition to Keselowski, the only other driver team owner, Denny Hamlin, was asked the same question.
As a team owner, yeah, there's vendors that are saying that, they're going to have to raise their prices. And again, that the cost of the next gen itself has gotten so high in general. But, I'm sure it would fall. It's going to fall on the teams like you would think.
Thankfully, this weekend's races didn't have that craziness that we saw in last week's Xfinity Series race at Martinsville. However, that subject was still part of the conversation because NASCAR officials met with the Xfinity Series drivers in a drivers-only meeting on Saturday. After that meeting, Austin Hill shared what was discussed and his involvement.
I said this in the meeting, actually. In our meeting that we just had, they opened it to the floor. Justin spoke first and I spoke second on some of the areas that we need to do a better job of, or where we stand or where we feel like we stand.
Well, on Sunday morning, Dale Jr. offered his thoughts on X on what Hill had to say. Quote, "To hear he spoke up in the Xfinity All Drivers meeting to suggest he could be one to mentor the kids was the best laugh I had all week." Earnhardt throwing some shade. Gotta love it. Fast forwarding a few hours later to the Fox pre-race show, and a couple of things that I thought were worth noting. First were the initial comments of Kyle Larson during his interview with the Fox crew. Take a listen.
I want to ask you, since this is Throwback Weekend, do you see yourself as a bit of a throwback driver, or do you need to be angrier?
Angrier. Well, you guys are getting me angry. You guys, this whole time I've been off camera, you guys have been ragging on me. I'm fat, apparently. I'm slow.
I called you fat.
Yeah.
Sunburn.
And a short time later, Larson's HMS teammate Chase Elliott was interviewed, and things went horribly wrong.
Chase Elliott sitting here in the Coca-Cola. Chase, I know there's chug points, but that one exploded everywhere on you. Starting 15th today, Darlington. Does it get much better than this racetrack?
No, but it'd be a lot better if I was had a clean suit to start today. But hey, that's okay. I had a nice fresh Coca-Cola.
To Elliott's credit, he still managed to get in a good plug for Coke, which takes us to the race. And Kyle Larson didn't wait long to get back in the headlines when he crashed on lap 4 to bring out the day's first caution. Early in that first stage, there were multiple reports of radio problems on pit road and how teams were unable to communicate because the internet was down. While Larson had trouble in that first stage, his teammate William Byron, who started on the pole, experienced no such issues running in clean air. He pulled out to a big lead on the long run. Conversely, Ty Gibbs, who started 11th, was struggling. He dropped 24 spots after a restart late in the stage, got lapped, and was not happy about it, especially when Riley Herbst passed him.
He's a couple down. We're not racing him. He's 2 down right now. Clear.
We're not racing nobody the way this thing is driving.
10-4. So just feed you info. Take what it's giving you. It's a long race, a long ways to go yet. The 35 out back is our lap. Keep racing smart inside. Clear.
Okay, it's fucking cool bag.
We closed out that first stage, and William Byron led every single lap. He was followed by Bubba Wallace, Ryan Preece, Chris Buescher, and Tyler Reddick. Stage 2 was second verse, same as the first. William Byron led every single lap. He led the first 243 laps of the race. How do you say domination? But in that second stage, the complexion of the race dramatically changed. Ryan Blaney started the green flag pit cycle with 55 laps to go. Others followed, including Brad Keselowski. The 2012 champ has struggled this season but was running well at Darlington, the track where he last won at last year. He was running inside the top 6 when he came down pit road. Unfortunately, the number 6 pit crew didn't get the right rear tight and the tire didn't come off, but the nut did, which sent the RFK for a slide down the track. To Keselowski's credit, he kept it straight and kept it rolling. And to NASCAR's credit, the tower didn't throw out the caution, or so we thought. I was actually lauding NASCAR officials for not putting out the yellow. Keselowski managed to make it around the track and get down to pit road. And then 3 laps later, the caution came out for debris. And what was the debris? Keselowski's lug on the apron. Multiple drivers were questioning the call. Eric Jones, who was running third and just started to come down pit road, didn't mince words on what he thought about NASCAR's decision.
We did not beat the license. The fuck, NASCAR, are we fucking doing? We fucking kidding me?
That caution was massive because it totally changed up the running order. Cars like Jones that were running up near the top were shuffled back. Cars that were running in the back, like Gibbs, cycled forward, all because of a caution that didn't need to be a caution. Once again, this season, the tower involved in an unnecessary controversy. Richard Petty was up in the Fox broadcast booth during this time with his son Kyle as part of Throwback Weekend. The King talked about his history at the Lady in Black and a variety of other topics. But what happened at the end of the visit was really eye-opening. Take a listen to what he had to say.
The big deal is when I'm sitting here and see what I see on TV, and the race is really back about 15th or 20th, them guys, they drive their fanny off every lap. They're really racing back there, but, you know, it's, if you're here, you can see that. You can't see it on TV.
Richard Petty saying what we've all been saying for years. That second stage concluded, as I mentioned, with William Byron out front. But with the caution and the jumbled up positions, he was followed by Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, and Josh Berry. Early in that third stage, any chance of Berry having a good run came to an end when he made contact with Tyler Reddick and crashed. On the subsequent restart, the cars had a long green flag run. Reddick, who was running fourth, was the first to come down pit road and start the pit cycle with 53 laps to go in what turned out to be another big shift in the race. That's because William Byron followed his similar plan as earlier in the race that benefited him when that phantom caution came out. This time, however, it did not. He pitted 4 laps later, and for the first time in the race, he wasn't the leader when he came off pit road because he was behind Reddick and Bell, who had pitted a couple of laps before. Hamlin and Blaney were the last of the guys in front to pit. When they returned to the track and the pit cycle was complete, Reddick was out in front and had a 17-second lead over Blaney, but was on 9-lap older tires. In the final 15 laps, the question was, could Blaney, who had a fast car all day, catch up to Reddick? The answer was yes. He passed the 2311 racing driver with 3 laps to go, but incredibly, and the Fox cameras, much to my surprise, actually showed it. Reddick got passed by Blaney in the foreground, and take a look at what happened in the background. Kyle Larson went for a spin off the nose of Bubba Wallace. And that's where the conspiracy theorists came out of the woodwork, suggesting that Wallace deliberately spun Larson to bring out a caution and help his teammate Tyler Reddick. However, listening to the team radio of the number 5 car, and that was clearly not the case.
Still there, quarter, all clear, all clear. Watch 45 here, check up. I was checking up, so that's embarrassing. It's all good.
Even Larson's crew chief, Cliff Daniels, acknowledged after the race that his driver was trying to avoid getting in the way of the leaders and stay low. He checked up early to make sure he didn't get into Reddick, but Wallace had no idea that Larson was going to slow down that much. Then, on the day's final pit stop, Hamlin, whose number 11 pit crew has been stellar this season, including last week at Martinsville, helped him get off pit road first, and that was the difference. The number 11 car set sail on the green-white checkered and was the first to cross the finish line to record his 2nd win in as many weeks, and the 5th win in 8 races for Joe Gibbs Racing. What's crazy about it is I remember at the start of this season noting how the Gibbs cars hadn't won a race since New Hampshire in June of last year. Now they've won 5 of the first 8 races in 2025. Others of note in the finish, Ryan Blaney got his first top 5 in the last 6 weeks. Ty Gibbs, who was not happy early on in the race, got his first top 10 of the year. Kyle Busch, who finished 10th, got his first top 10 since Phoenix. Brad Keselowski finished 33rd, and 2 HMS cars rounded out the bottom 4 with Alex Bowman in 35th and Kyle Larson in 37th. All right, guys, that's a wrap on today's episode. We covered a lot, and I want to hear what you thought about the Throwback Weekend at Darlington. Let's start with that. Throwbacks. Do you agree with Chase Elliott that it's lost its luster, or Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski that it's a fun tradition the fans enjoy and should continue? As for the race, what did you guys think of William Byron's performance and that caution in the second stage that altered the running order? What about Richard Petty's comments on Fox not showing the battles happening in the back? You know what I think about it. And finally, that ending. For you Blaney fans, how bad does this one sting? For me, I know Hamlin was not on my radar to win, but his pit crew, which I later heard have been nicknamed the villains because they rip out the hearts of their competitors, did just that and stole one. And the 11 against the World Tour continues. Thanks again for checking out the latest video and supporting the channel. I really and truly appreciate it and hope you have a great rest of your day.